is Barry Torrenti. I am the owner of my 1939 Brun Cadillac town car, a special commission that was ordered by Joseph Early Widener for his home at Linwood Hall. This is body number 1. Body number 2 was sent to Florida. He owned a Hialeah racetrack there, and number 2 is no longer in existence, unfortunately. This car was purchased in Philadelphia when I was 16 in 1966, and it was in fairly deplorable condition. I knew that it had great potential, and it also was quite expensive to restore, but I persevered all these years, and finally I'm to a point where I'm quite happy with the car. Like any other car, there's going to be things that any new owner might want to change ever so slightly, but more than anything is the fact that the car is preserved. It is a piece of history. Joseph Widener was one of the largest philanthropists in Philadelphia and the country, having amassed a massive collection of some of the finest art in the country. In 1940, he invited President Roosevelt to his home, Linwood Hall, to discuss with his architect, Horace Trumbauer, the building of the National Gallery of Art. J.P. Morgan had already given his collection, Widener was giving his collection. And so Roosevelt rode in this car over the weekend that he spent at Linwood. They discussed the plans for the Widener collection being donated along with the building of the wing of the National Gallery. The car in 1939 is quite unusual. Anything pre-war that would have been completely custom made. And in this case, this car is Cadillac from the cowl on up and the frame, but from the windshield and partially the cowl on back was completely handmade. We have photographs of the car being created by the Brun company. When I was 16, Mr. Brun was in his late 80s, and we had multiple discussions about this car. He kept meticulous archives, which of course are included with the sale of the car. They're copies of the original 8x10 black and white glossy photographs. I have letters from Mr. Brun. I have several copies from the Classic Car Club, where Mr. Brun wrote articles about creating the ease of this open chauffeur town car, raising up the roof and putting and restoring it back into its compartment. This was a car, this commission was the only thing that saved Brun and Company for 3 more years. The Depression was still lingering in this country. Millionaires were not riding around in cars like this. They were more or less keeping a lower profile because they were targets of anarchists who felt that they were being unfairly treated. But Mr. Widener felt that he was not going to hide behind a Ford or a Chevrolet. So he did have this commission. The cost was astronomical for that period of time. I believe for the 2 cars it was $27,000, an unheard of amount of money for an automobile at that time. However, when you look at the photographs of the car and you look at everything that's in this car, you begin to understand that the money was well spent. The quality of the design is unmatched. Brun was known for his comfort, and when you sit in this car, it's like sitting in your living room, if your living room is this plush. The mahogany panels, the Jaeger LaCultre clock that's built into the paneling behind the glass partition, and the Hermès Silver St. Christopher medal, both of which were missing on this car, and Mr. Brun felt that I would never be able to find them. In later years, with computerized searches, I was able to remarkably find the 2 pieces. In the ladies' vanity, there are Tiffany Lawson Company. Tiffany retailed them. A ladies' compact with pave rubies diamonds and a lipstick and a perfumer, all of which fit into their own compartment. On the gentleman's side of the car, there is a lighter and a holder for cigars. She has control of the radio on her side of the car and the armrest, and he has an ashtray on his side of the car. The front of the car is done in Italian leather, the finest leather that I could locate at that point, and the back of the car is done in English broadcloth in a dove gray color. It was 22 yards of fabric to do the back. The interesting thing about this car, beside the car itself, is the fact that over a period of years I was able to locate really strategic parts of the car. One of them being the two Brun labels on the car. These are extremely rare, and they were missing from the car, and I did happen to find someone in Boston who had access to those, and he was gracious enough to sell them to me, and that made a big turning point in the restoration. The door handles are extremely heavy. They are solid bronze, a personal design by Mr. Brun. You will not see these door handles on any other car. As well as the interior door handles, these were all designed by Brun, and in the Art Deco fashion, absolutely beautiful work. Each door has its own compartment for putting in maps or whatever you would need for that point. The door locks are extremely large, and they have supports because these doors do weigh a substantial amount. The closeness of how Mr. Brun created the door panel in retrospect to the side-mounted tire is pretty amazing. I like the sound of when a car closes like that. It just shows the quality of what it is. Going around the car, I have the exterior visor, which was necessary when you had a town car because of the roof. The chroming was all done by K&S Chroming. They're above Pittsburgh. They did an incredible job on this. Normally you would see this area here painted, and it would have to be repainted every year. The chroming was so spectacular that we left it alone and decided not to paint that part of the chrome. And as you come around the car, you'll notice that there are Hurd door locks. These are very rare. Hurd was used on Rolls-Royce, Duesenberg, any other major car. I was missing one of these locks, and I found a gentleman in Wisconsin that had over 50,000 antique car locks. He had one Hurd, and I was able to get it, which was very fortunate. The keying for this car, this is an English fashion. The key for the front lock is different than the back. So if Mrs. Widener would have picked up something valuable and she had it in the car with her, the chauffeur did not have access to the back of the car. She had the key. The fenders in the back of this car were hand hammered, and there is a photograph of these being hammered into chestnut molds by one of the Brun workmen. The tail lights are 1936 Cadillac tail lights. A very rare year because of the Depression. I believe 1,500 Cadillacs, if not less, were made in that year. Currently, the taillight lenses that are on this car are reproductions from the 1960s, but we are supplying original glass ones that I have with the car. When I purchased this car, this entire taillight assembly was missing, and I was at Hershey when I was 16 or 17, and I had saved all year looking to purchase this taillight, and lo and behold, I did find it in the box, held it up, and the gentleman looked at me and said, "It's $1,200. Back then, I almost passed out, but my restorer, Jim Foster, at that point said, buy it, you're never going to see one again. And so my entire budget for the year was completely spent on a tail light assembly. The back of the car is just an exquisite example of craftsmanship. The chroming in the back of the car is called platinum. And what they did was they chromed it, and then they would rough it down with a soft approach to take down the harshness of the chrome. And as you notice, the front of the car is chrome, and this is called platinum, just to give you that finished look. Every door has a Brun label on it. It has a speedometer in the back so you can see how fast your chauffeur is going. It has jump seats that come out quite easily. It was common to have one of these jump seats without a back on it. And this is the same way. You have your lap robe holder. Included in the sale of this car is going to be the original mink lap robe, which I'm having restored right now. I'm having it rebacked, and it has the Widener initials on it, and also 2 pillows that were in very bad condition. They're being refurbished, rebuilt, and will be included with the car. I cannot tell you, this was an experience that I will never forget. I don't think I want to repeat it. It was a labor of love. It took about every penny that I ever made in order to restore this car, but it was okay. It was okay because each time that it came into being, it was a thrill beyond belief. The car is just so beautiful, and I love driving it. It's just an incredible automobile. It's a very strong driving car. Just an experience that I cannot really explain. You have to be behind the wheel of this car to understand how absolutely wonderful it is. So a labor of love that has come to fruition, and it's time to say goodbye to this car. Or if I don't say goodbye to it, it's something that I'll still enjoy, love owning, but it's just something that, boy, you're not going to see something like this every day, are you? As they said, it creates a sensation wherever it goes. People just stop. Traffic stops in all different directions. There's one final note that I kind of forgot to mention, and that was the fact that the Widener family owned controlling interest in the White Star Line, which unfortunately owned the Titanic. Joseph's mother was put into a lifeboat along with her maid, but Joseph's younger brother Harry went down on the Titanic, and he was heroically saving children, mostly immigrant children, and putting them in lifeboats. He probably qualified to get into a lifeboat but chose not to. Joseph also lost his uncle Dutton Elkins, and Henry Dutton Elkins, and that was quite unfortunate for the family, as well as for all the families that were on the Titanic. So there is a tie-in along with the Titanic history along with Joseph Widener. There will also be chauffeur uniforms for all 4 seasons that are included with the sale of the car. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope whoever has the car will enjoy the history, which obviously is quite important to Philadelphia history and to history throughout the world.